Welcome to ETERNIA Late Night. We have the power. I'm your host AJ, aka Voodoo Magic, aka Zor, and ETERNIA Late Night is the official offshoot of the ETERNIA podcast, where we are a little less structured and a little more raw, just featuring real conversations over a potential drink with no official plan on where it goes and where we land, discussing anything and everything. So here I am again in the ETERNIA Command Center, and I couldn't be more excited. And the reason why I'm excited is because we got a letter. That's right, we got a letter. Someone sent an email to the ETERNIA Late Night show in regards to feedback, and I'm so excited to read it. We're always saying at the end of the podcast, if you have anything you'd like to say or anything that you want read on the air, please email us at eternia@gmail.com. And we finally got one, so I'm going to read it today. It reads, Dear AJ, I'm writing this email to let you know how much my husband and I enjoy the ETERNIA Late Night podcast. My husband and I are on the road a lot, and we listen to many podcasts incessantly. Incessantly? That's a $5 word right there. Not all of them make it through our selection process, though. We both have different tastes. I am a He-Man and SheRa fan, and he is not. But your show he enjoys because you get into different topics, not just He-Man and SheRa. And when you do talk He-Man and SheRa, you make it accessible to the non-fan. Sometimes your topics even start discussions between us, like when you spoke about movie theaters becoming a thing of the past. You always say you appreciate feedback, so hopefully you appreciate ours. Keep up the good work. Sincerely, avid listeners, Sandy and Michael. P.S. When SheRa turns 40 next year, our marriage will turn 20. Thank you so much, Sandy and Michael. This means a lot to me, more than you know, because, I'm just a knucklehead trying to do my best here, and I never really know how well I'm doing, and I just rely on feedback from this great community. And unfortunately, when you're doing a podcast, a lot of people get their streams from platforms that really don't offer feedback. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening to on Apple or Amazon, they really don't have a way to sort of comment on a particular episode. So it's really hard to know how well I'm doing. That's why I rely on so many people like who listen to this podcast, who watch it on YouTube, because, the feedback I get from great people like Dora Lovely and like from Mike and T-Train and Al73. I mean, it means a lot to me, because then it just gives me an inkling of if I'm doing okay or if I'm doing horribly and I should stop, And I do get a little like from Craig on Instagram, and then on the community forums, Nina Dust and Heather sometimes let me know what I'm doing. And I really appreciate it, because like I said, I never know if the juice is worth the squeeze, But letters like this, the juice is definitely worth the squeeze. So thank you, Sandy and Michael. And congratulations on your marriage. That's great. So next year will be 20. So you're 19 years right now. And that is a success story, Me and my wife, we both were divorced, and then we remarried each other. And that's our success story together. But the fact that you got 19 years in, going on 20, that is huge, you're doing the work, so to say. There was a great, marriages require you to put the work in, usually, for them to be successful. And my wife and I watched this show, Blackish, from time to time, and there was a great analogy to marriage and to life made on that show. And they equated life to being Thanksgiving dinner. That's life. And the turkey is your marriage. Your marriage is the turkey. Your marriage is the centerpiece of life, And then what you could do, that turkey's great. You can, add all the ingredients, and then you could put it in the oven, and you can set it and you can forget about it and it'll be good for a while. And then you start focusing on the sides. You start focusing on your kids, start focusing on your house, start focusing on your career. And then you realize, sometimes too late, that it's been a while since you checked on that turkey, you know? And some people, unfortunately, neglect the most important part of Thanksgiving dinner, that marriage. So you can't neglect your marriage. You always have to put in the work. You always have to let your spouse know you appreciate them. And you both are clearly doing that. So I'm sure you're going to reach 20 next year. That is great. Congratulations. I wonder if it's going to be in March. Is it going to line up exactly with SheRa's anniversary? That would be really cool. But I'm so very extremely happy for you. All right, so I got my coffee today and I got my gin today. I think we will go over a little Motu news. There's not that much. But the one thing I wanted to get into first is because we kind of explored this a little in the last For ETERNIA Late Night episode, is the toys that got away. There's some toys that still kind of haunt me to this day. Is that strange? Is that weird? Or is other toy collectors out there feel the same way? And what I mean is, there are toys that I wanted as a kid and never got, and I still think about them till this day. I've never bought any of them. Some people seek them out as adults. It's like, yeah, I wanted that, and finally, I hit 40 and I got it. I haven't yet. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because I mostly focus on Masters of the Universe. And that's what I did as a child too. When Masters of the Universe toys came out in 1982, debuted in 19, was it 82? Yeah, 82. Once I got my Castle Grayskull, I got my Snake Mountain, I got all those figures, I was all in. I had some Star Wars stuff, some Star Wars action figures and a Death Star. And I had a buddy who had Star Wars and He-Man too. And I traded all my Star Wars stuff to him for all his He-Man stuff. Because, when I'm into something, I'm into something. Obviously, look behind me. Look at what I'm doing here, at this age. I'm still singing about Masters of the Universe. But there were still other toys I was interested in, and I didn't get. I ended up getting like my initial, Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, Wave 1 and 2, stuff like that as a kid. And it was like I was getting everything I've always wanted, right? But then my parents divorced and they split up and they lived in different houses, and suddenly money was tight. So I really didn't get that many toys, a lot of things that I really wanted. And for some reason, they've stayed with me. They lingered in my brain. They caused like this, imprint. What do they call that? Is that what they do to those poor animals? Branding. It's branded in my brain. And it's been there ever since. And we talked about one of those toys that I always wanted as a kid in the last episode. And I figured, why not today, count down the top 5 toys that got away. At least for me. And one of them I think is going to surprise you. So again, this is not Masters of the Universe related, one way or another, by hook or by crook. I got my Masters of the Universe action figures. The only play sets I actually got was just Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain. But no, this is stuff that is non-Motu related, that I've always wanted, I've never gotten, and has stayed with me. All right, so let's count them down. Number 5, the 5th toy, most wanted toy of mine that got away, and this is going to surprise a lot of you, was the Snoopy snow cone maker. It was a Snoopy snow cone machine. I think that was the name. It was made by Hasbro and allowed kids to make their own snow cones. And this might be like shocking everyone, like, really? This is in your top 5? It was. I don't know. I used to see those commercials at the kid and it had this great jingle. I'll spare you from singing this time. And I just always wanted a thing. And what happened was it looked like Snoopy's, I guess, doghouse. And what you would do is, as a kid, you could put like ice cubes in the top. It was almost like the chimney hole of the doghouse. And then you put like Snoopy was connected to a block, and you put it in the hole and push the ice down, and then you'd like rotate a grinder and you would grind that ice. It'd be like a crank. There was no batteries here. You wouldn't plug this in, and it'd be a hand crank tool, and you'd crank the ice and make it into snow cones. And then they came with like these little flavor packets where you could add like cherry flavoring, I guess, or strawberry, and you just drip it into the ice, and next thing you know, you have your own snow cone. And I just wanted that so badly, and my parents wouldn't get it for me. I don't know, maybe they thought it was unsafe that I would hurt myself, because think about it, you got to love the 80s, right? Think about it. These weren't like mini ice cubes. These were like big giant ice cubes. Imagine the blades it takes to crank and cut up these ice cubes, and you would just drop them in on top in this hole. And the hole always looked like big enough for a kid to get their fingers in. Like if they got their fingers in and started turning that crank, it'd be a finger cone. But that was the 80s. The 80s was always a little more wild. They were less concerned about safety back then. And it was the whole reason why kids could buy cap guns, stuff with gunpowder, or candy cigarettes. And that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I always wanted this. I always wanted to make my own snow cones, and I couldn't. And it still haunts me to this day. All right. So my number 4 most wanted toy that got away, that I never got, was a Jaws board game. But it really wasn't a board game. Maybe board game is the incorrect pronunciation or classification, right? But it was made by a company called Ideal, and it was a 3D, plastic. It was a plastic shark, Jaws, right? That had his mouth open. And the mouth was spring loaded. The bottom of the jaw was spring loaded, and you would put like tons of stuff in there, like license plates and treasure chests and like tires. And what you would do is, as a player, you would take turns, and you would use this like tool, this hook tool. It was almost like a dental tool. Do you guys remember going to the dentist and they use this like little hook thing, Captain Hook tool, to like scratch your tartar off? I always hated that, the scratch. But they would scratch tartar off. So when you go for a teeth cleaning, so you kind of use this like dental tool. And then what we do with this dental tool is, one by one, we carefully, like a surgeon, fish out items out of his jaw and hope the jaw doesn't slam shut on us. Like I'd fish out a tire very carefully, and my buddy, he would fish out like a treasure chest. And as we do this, and the more items we take out of Jaws' mouth, it gets less weighted down. And eventually that mouth is going to snap shut on one of our dental tools. And whoever it snaps shut on, you're the loser. And I got to play this once at a friend's house, and I fell in love with the game, but never got it. And it's haunted me ever since. And that's why it's on this list of the toys that got away. That's why it's number 4. Okay, number 3, my third toy that got away, my third most wanted toy that I never received, was Voltron. That's right. Do you guys remember Voltron? Yeah, of course you do. The animated cartoon. It was a crazy cartoon that, these like, were they pilots? I don't know. They would all operate a robotic, gigantic lion. And there were 5 lions: black, green, yellow, red, blue. And what would happen is, if they need to fight like a big Godzilla-sized monster, these robotic lions could like merge to form a gigantic robot. Like the black lion would be the torso, and then you'd have another lion for an arm, leg, and leg. And it was really wild. And I loved watching the cartoon. And Matchbox came out with the toy, and I always wanted the toy. I thought it was always so cool. I really wanted it badly, and I never got it. I never got it, you know? And it seemed really easy to kind of put together. You know, that was the one thing that I was turned off by Transformers. I was given a couple Transformers as a kid, like Optimus Prime and Starscream, and they were a lot of work. I remember Tim making fun of me, Tim Sheridan. He's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Your toys were so much work for you." He was making fun of me because I kept playing. That you know, I just want to play. I just want to take a toy out of the box and play with. But Transformers took me like 15 minutes. Those were complicated back then. You know, anytime you would watch the animated show, right, and you would see like how Optimus Prime would transform from a robot into a truck and be and it was like 5 seconds. But in real life with this toy, it took you like 5 minutes. Or for me, someone slow like me, 10 minutes to sort of like transform him once. And it was the total like interruption in playtime, a total interruption in my fantasy narrative. And I hated it. I hated it. I couldn't play with Transformers. They were just too complicated. But the lions looked really easy to put together. At least they did on the commercial. And I really wanted them. But unfortunately, those lions, that Voltron toy from Matchbox, I never got it. And that's why it's number 3 on my list. Okay, number 2. Number 2 of the top 5 toys that got away, my top 5 most wanted toys that I never got. Number 2 is, and this is what I talked about on the previous podcast, the Enemy Visitor action figure. It's kind of like a doll, but it did have articulation, so it was like an action figure. So this was a 12-inch figure based on the original mini series that aired in NBC, I believe, in 1983. And it was so great. It was a 12-inch doll in this red uniform, and he had flesh-colored skin, and sunglasses. And just like the movie, you could take off the sunglasses and then you could peel off his skin, revealing the lizard alien inside. For anyone who didn't see the original miniseries, there were aliens that came to Earth. They looked like us, but they weren't what they were advertising. They were actually mammal-eating lizards that were hiding under flesh suits. And this 12-inch action figure was that. I just love the idea of being able to peel off the skin, and then you'd have this lizard face underneath, and then you could activate the tongue and make it stick in and out. And it was just, I wanted it so bad. I love that miniseries, and I love the follow-up miniseries, V: The Final Battle. And I wanted this doll, this action figure, so badly. It was made by LGN. It had some limited articulation. I think one of the arms was would always stay bent, and then one arm was straight. And the reason why it was like that is because it was a repurposed Michael Jackson action figure. Yeah. So, like, I guess maybe a year before it, LJN made this cool action figure of Michael Jackson. And you could buy like different versions, he would have different outfits. And even though he was kind of articulated like at the shoulders and stuff, he had one arm sort of bent, so you could put a microphone in his hand and he could put it up to his mouth. And then the other arm was kind of straight, and Michael Jackson could hold, his hand up in the air, and that was his signature, pose, right? And what V had done, or what LJN had done for their V Enemy Visitor doll, was repurpose that Michael Jackson doll and create an alien V action figure, which is ironic because there used to be all these like tabloids that said, "Is Michael Jackson an alien?" Michael Jackson really came from another planet. So it's ironic that they turn a Michael Jackson doll into an alien visitor doll. But that was my second most wanted toy that I never got as a kid. And now it's time for number 1. Drum roll, please. This was my top toy that got away. The top toy that I always wanted as a child, but either my parents couldn't afford or neglected to get me. My most wanted toy as a kid, for some reason, was the Shogun Godzilla. That's right. So the Shogun Godzilla is an interesting toy. It was like a 12-inch, could have been even taller, maybe 14-inch Godzilla, and it was plastic. He had limited articulation. You can do his like arms up and down and his legs up and down, but I think that was pretty much it. But he was so cool looking. As a child, they will always be playing these Godzilla movies on the weekends, the old Japanese Godzilla movies where everyone's like, in a monster suit and they're crashing like little miniature buildings and little miniature tanks. And I just loved those as a kid. And this Godzilla, just in the face, it captured what I saw as Godzilla perfectly. I just loved the face of this thing, and it was so cool. And you could press a button on the back of his head and make like fire breathing. I mean, it wasn't really atomic breath, I guess. It's just, yeah, it was like fire, but you can make it like breathe fire through its mouth. And I wanted that so badly. And it made no sense. It made absolutely no sense. But Godzilla, the Shogun Godzilla, could shoot his fist. That's right. He could point his fist and he press a button and he shoots it off. I have no idea why. I guess it's more of that Shogun robot thing, I guess. But for some reason, Godzilla, a living creature, could shoot his fist off at somebody and then it'll return and land on his arm. I don't know. But I always wanted it as a kid. Never got it. I came close to buying that one. That one. And the V. Came very close. But you know what? I never have for some reason or another. But so those were the top 5 toys that got away. I would love to have them one day. All right, so now let's discuss some rumors. Some rumors about SheRa coming to the Masters of the Universe Origins cartoon collection action figure subline. So this is really a topic that originated in the For Eternia community forums. I believe Disney Boy brought it up, and then Brasco, Smitty81, Eternian Bunny, and others, joined in on the conversation. And it was about rumors that SheRa is coming to this cartoon collection action figure subline. So for anyone who doesn't know, the cartoon collection is a action figure subline that was announced by Mattel last year in 2023 at the San Diego International Comic-Con. And what they announced was they were making, these vintage style figures, this Masters of the Universe Origins figures that looked like the classic cartoon from 1983, the classic 1983 Filmation series, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Your He-Man would look like the cartoon. Your Skeletor would look like the cartoon. For any of the kids that had the toys in the 80s and watched the cartoon and always wished their action figures looked like, their cartoon counterparts, well, these toys were for you. And they had announced them back then, I think in July of 2023. And since then, they've released a lot of figures. They've released He-Man and Skeletor and Evelyn and Beastman and Merman and Stratos. Geez, and even a Cringer and even a vehicle called the Collector. And it's so cool. And I'm collecting every single one of them, and I just love them. As a fan of that classic cartoon, I just love them. Well, now there's a rumor coming out that SheRa is going to be joining this, cartoon collection action figure line, that they're going to start producing SheRa figures, like SheRa and Bo, etc. And what really sold it to me was the Mattel graphic designer and art director. His name is Roy Juarez. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He had indicated on Instagram, and he was referring to the Prince Adam and Cringer 2-pack. And he was saying everything there, like all the Easter eggs and everything, was strategically placed and there for a reason. And then he told us to stay tuned. So there were a lot of interesting things on that packaging, right? Now, we saw that there was a butterfly on that packaging that had the same colors of a SheRa character called Flutterina. And we saw in the packaging, there's the character of Imp, Hordak's little buddy. That is a Filmation SheRa character. And he's spying on Prince Adam in the cartoon collection. And then what happened is when they released the collector, they duplicated that imp spying on the Masters of the Universe characters. And then on the other side of the box, if it wasn't obvious enough, we have SheRa and Swiftwind on the side of the box. So, yeah, I think this is pretty much a done deal that we are getting SheRa figures coming to the cartoon collection. You know, based on what the Mattel's graphic designer and art director said, and based on what we're seeing on the packaging, how could they not be coming, right? I mean, wouldn't that be the cruelest thing ever to tease so many, SheRa characters on these cartoon collection boxes and then never produce them in figure form? Ugh, there's no way Mattel is going to do that, right? So I think they're definitely going to be released here. And I bet they're going to be announced at the San Diego Comic-Con, and they're going to come out just in time for SheRa's 40th anniversary next March. So while it is a rumor, and I have no concrete proof that it's actually coming, I really do believe in my heart that we're going to be getting SheRa Princess of Power figures to the cartoon collection line, and they're probably going to be announced at this July at San Diego International Comic-Con. And I can't wait. All right. So now let's get into some news. So our first bit of news is there is a Art of Masters of the Universe Revolution hardcover book coming out this December. It's available for pre-order right now over at Amazon. You can find the link on ForEternia.com. It's no affiliation link, meaning we get no money if you click on it and pre-order your book. And I couldn't be more excited to get it. We actually knew it was coming out. We released an article in March. We heard from multiple inside sources that, we're going to get an art book just like we did with Masters of the Universe Revelation. Because I love the art book for Masters of the Universe Revelation. Has all these animation models inside, backgrounds and storyboards, and really just some behind the scenes goodies on how they made the show Masters of the Universe Revelation. I love it so much that I got it digitally. I got it in hardcover. And then when there was like a Black Friday sale or something, I got another one to keep shrink wrapped in plastic. Yeah, I have a problem. I know. Just look behind me. Got a major problem. But now I'm excited because Mattel, Dark Horse, they finally, Powerhouse Animation, right? They finally announced that they're making a companion art book for Masters of the Universe Revolution. So what else is out there? Oh, Mattel announced a new San Diego Comic-Con exclusive action figure. It was for the Masters of the Universe Origins cartoon collection line. And it's Too Bad. Yeah. And it's really cool because this Too Bad is a combo set where you get Tuvar and Badra, and you can actually merge the figures yourself into Too Bad. It comes with an additional torso, and you could take one leg of Tuvar's and one leg of Badra, one arm of Tuvar, one arm of Badra, and connect it to this torso, and you could create Too Bad. And it's so cool. And the packaging is beautiful, and I can't wait. I'm definitely going to order one, maybe two. It's going to be available exclusively at San Diego Comic-Con, but it's also going to be available at the Mattel Creations website on Thursday, July 5th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm just so excited to get this figure. It's also going to come with a mini comic as well. I can't wait. So is that it? Yeah, I think that's it for tonight. But before I sign off, I just want to give a heartfelt thanks to everyone that listens and watches and supports this show. This is really the best community around, and it's a big community, and our strength is in our numbers. And I'm just one knucklehead here, trying to do my best, trying to be entertaining. And the fact that so many of you feel this is worthy of your time, you give me words of encouragement, just really means a lot. Like you, Sandy, Michael, that email out there, I really appreciate it. And everyone else who leaves, comments on YouTube, it means more than you know, and it really keeps me going. So thank you. So if you like this show, please show us your support by subscribing to our streams, our channel, and please give us a like and a comment below where able. And you can always drop us a line too by sending us an email to forternia@gmail.com. We really do love the feedback. You know I do. And as always, visit us at forternia.com for all the latest updates and news, as well as links to our social media pages like X, Facebook, and Instagram that can help you stay up to date with all of the Masters of the Universe content. So that's it. I would like to thank you all for listening, and let the power return. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.